Hidden beneath the sands of time, ancient Persia whispers its secrets through stone and symbol, waiting for those who dare to listen. Imagine standing before a monument carved thousands of years ago, its surface etched with intricate patterns and cryptic inscriptions, each line a puzzle, each curve a clue. These aren't just relics of a forgotten empire, they're time capsules holding messages meant to outlast dynasties, wars, and even the shifting tides of history itself. From the towering columns of Persepolis to the silent tombs of forgotten kings, Persia's monuments are more than just breathtaking feats of architecture. They're riddles in plain sight, hiding stories of power, faith, and knowledge that modern scholars are still struggling to unravel. What if these stones could speak? What would they tell us about the lives, the dreams, and the fears of the people who built them? Some inscriptions warn of curses, others boast of divine favor, and a few even seem to encode advanced astronomical knowledge, secrets that hint at a sophistication far beyond what we've credited to the ancient world. But here's the thrilling part: not all of these messages have been decoded. Some remain stubbornly elusive, teasing researchers with the possibility of discoveries that could rewrite history as we know it. Today, we're embarking on a journey across 30 of Persia's most enigmatic monuments, each one a gateway to a hidden layer of the past. We'll explore how the curve of a doorway might conceal a forgotten prayer, how the alignment of a tomb could mirror the stars, and how even the smallest carving might hold the key to understanding an entire civilization. This isn't just a tour of ancient ruins, it's a detective story, a treasure hunt, and a chance to peer directly into the minds of those who walked these lands millennia ago. So lean in close, because the stones are about to speak, and what they have to say will leave you spellbound. Rising from the plains of modern-day Iran, the sprawling ruins of Persepolis stand as a testament to the might and mystery of ancient Persia. Walk through the gate of all nations, and you're immediately surrounded by towering columns and staircases adorned with intricate stone carvings, each one a silent messenger from the Age of Kings. But look closer, and you'll notice something extraordinary. Thousands of wedge-shaped symbols pressed into the walls, floor to ceiling. This is cuneiform, one of the world's oldest writing systems, and here it's far more than just decoration. Scholars have spent decades deciphering these inscriptions, uncovering layers of meaning that go beyond royal proclamations. Some texts appear to be straightforward accounts of tribute and conquest, but others, they're different. Hidden within the formal language are subtle turns of phrase, unexpected references to gods, and even veiled threats to rival kingdoms. One theory suggests these weren't just records. They were carefully crafted propaganda, designed to reinforce the king's divine right to rule while intimidating visitors from distant lands. And then there are the reliefs. Stretching along the staircases, they depict processions of figures bearing gifts, their faces frozen in time. At first glance, it's a celebration of the empire's vast reach. But some researchers argue the arrangement of these figures holds a secret code. Notice how certain groups are clustered together, how their gestures mirror celestial patterns. Could this be a hidden map of the empire's alliances, or perhaps even an astronomical calendar? The most tantalizing mystery lies in the Apadana Palace, where a series of inscriptions abruptly change tone, shifting from proud declarations to almost poetic reflections on the fleeting nature of power. Were these the private thoughts of a ruler grappling with his mortality, or warnings to future generations etched in stone for those wise enough to read between the lines? Persepolis doesn't give up its secrets easily. Even today, new technologies like 3D scanning reveal previously unnoticed symbols tucked into the shadows of carvings. Each discovery peels back another layer, proving that these walls still have stories to tell if we're willing to listen. Carved into the sheer cliffs of Naqsh-e Rustam, the imposing rock-cut tombs of Persia's Achaemenid kings watch over the valley like silent sentinels. These towering facades, each adorned with intricate carvings, are more than just burial sites. They're canvases of cryptic messages meant to echo through eternity. Step closer and you'll see the sprawling reliefs depicting kings standing triumphantly atop their enemies, their figures framed by symbols that scholars still struggle to interpret. Some believe these scenes are straightforward declarations of royal power, but others argue they're layered with hidden meanings, a visual language meant only for the initiated. Take the tomb of Darius the Great, for example. Above its entrance, a row of carved figures kneels in submission, their hands bound, a clear show of dominance. But look higher, and you'll spot a mysterious winged figure hovering above the king, its hands raised in what might be a blessing or a warning. Some archaeologists interpret this as the Faravaha, a Zoroastrian symbol of divine guidance. Others suggest it's a coded reference to the king's belief in his own celestial destiny, a claim to immortality written in stone. Then there are the enigmatic inscriptions lining the tombs, their cuneiform script packed with double meanings. One passage, translated as a simple tribute to Darius's victories, contains odd repetitions and subtle wordplay that hint at a deeper, almost ritualistic purpose. Could these words have been intended to guide the king's spirit in the afterlife, or were they meant to deter tomb raiders with veiled curses like the ones found in Egyptian pyramids? The debate rages on, with some experts pointing to similarities with Mesopotamian death rites, while others insist these texts are purely political, designed to cement the king's legacy in the minds of the living. But perhaps the most tantalizing mystery lies in the tomb's alignment. Unlike other Achaemenid sites, these facades are positioned to catch the first light of dawn at specific times of the year, casting long shadows that seem to animate the carvings. Was this intentional, a way to awaken the king's spirits during solstices or equinoxes? Or is it merely a coincidence, a trick of the light that modern observers are overinterpreting? Naqsh-e Rustam refuses to yield its secrets easily. With every new scan of its weathered surfaces, archaeologists uncover faint traces of pigment, suggesting these tombs were once vibrant with color, a startling contrast to the austere stone we see today. What messages might those lost hues have conveyed? For now, the cliffs keep their silence, leaving us to wonder what other narratives lie buried in plain sight. Standing alone on the windswept plains of Pasargadae, the tomb of Cyrus the Great cuts a strikingly simple figure, a modest rectangular chamber resting atop 6 stacked stone tiers. But don't let its austere appearance fool you. This unassuming structure is a masterclass in hidden meanings, its very design whispering secrets about the man who built one of history's most enlightened empires. Unlike the grand reliefs of Persepolis or the cliffside drama of Naqsh-e Rustam, Cyrus's tomb speaks through absence. There are no boastful inscriptions, no scenes of conquest. Instead, its power lies in what's not said, and in the subtle symbols that only reveal themselves to those who know where to look. Take the tomb's unusual alignment. While most ancient rulers positioned their monuments to face the rising sun, Cyrus's tomb is oriented precisely toward the constellation Hercules, a celestial nod to the legendary hero whose virtues the king emulated. This wasn't just architectural whimsy. For Cyrus, who practiced Zoroastrianism, light was divine. By linking his resting place to the stars, he may have been encoding his belief in a cosmic order that transcended earthly power. Even the tomb's proportions hold secrets. The 6-tiered base mirrors the Zoroastrian hierarchy of the Amsha Spenta, the 6 divine emanations that govern creation. Was this a silent declaration that Cyrus saw his rule as an extension of sacred principles? Then there's the mystery of the missing inscription. Greek historians like Strabo swore the tomb once bore the words, "I am Cyrus, who founded the Persian Empire," yet no such carving has ever been found. Some scholars argue it was deliberately removed not by Vandals, but by later rulers uneasy with Cyrus's revolutionary ideals. This was, after all, the king who authored history's first human rights charter, the Cyrus Cylinder, declaring freedom of worship for all conquered peoples. In a world built on tyranny, such tolerance may have been too dangerous to memorialize, but the most tantalizing clues lie in the tomb's scattered relief fragments. Among the debris, archaeologists found traces of a winged figure similar to Naqsh-e Rustam's Faravahar, except here, the symbol is fractured, its pieces deliberately buried. Was this an attempt to hide Cyrus's Zoroastrian faith from future invaders, or perhaps a symbolic gesture showing the king's humility before the divine? The truth may be both. Unlike his successors who flaunted their godlike status, Cyrus seemed to weave his spiritual beliefs into the fabric of his rule, trusting that those who truly understood would recognize the signs. Today, as laser scans reveal faint tool marks suggesting the tomb once bore gold leaf and lapis lazuli inlays, we're left to wonder, was this simplicity always part of the design, or did time strip away another layer of meaning? One thing's certain, whether through celestial alignments, numerical codes, or purposeful silence, Cyrus's tomb remains as enigmatic as the man himself, a puzzle carved not in words but in the spaces between them. Perched high on the cliffs of Mount Bisoton, a colossal inscription looms over the ancient highway that once connected Persia's greatest cities. This isn't just another royal proclamation, it's a masterstroke of political theater, carved into the living rock by Darius the Great to cement his controversial rise to power. Stretching nearly 150 feet across the cliff face, the Bisoton inscription tells a gripping tale of rebellion, divine favor, and cunning propaganda, but only if you know how to read between the lines. At first glance, the scene is straightforward. Towering above the text, a life-sized Darius places his foot on the chest of a defeated rebel, while 9 other figures stand bound before him, their necks connected by ropes. The accompanying text, painstakingly etched in 3 languages, Old Persian, Elamite, and Babylonian, claims these were the liar kings who challenged Darius's rule after the mysterious death of his predecessor. But here's where it gets fascinating. Modern historians have noticed glaring inconsistencies in the timeline. Some rebels mentioned in the inscription were already dead by the time Darius claims to have defeated them. Others seem to be entirely fabricated, their names suspiciously similar to ancient symbols of chaos. This wasn't just historical record-keeping, it was psychological warfare. By positioning his victories as the will of the Zoroastrian god Ahura Mazda, Darius transformed a messy power struggle into a holy crusade. The inscription's strategic location along a major trade route ensured travelers from every corner of the empire would see it, its trilingual text broadcasting the same message to elites in each culture. Resistance was both futile and blasphemous. But the real genius lies in the details. Notice how the figure of Ahura Mazda hovers above Darius, not just blessing the king, but actively handing him the ring of sovereignty, a visual claim that Darius didn't seize power but received it directly from the divine. And then there's the peculiar emphasis on truth versus lies, a theme repeated 24 times across the text. In Zoroastrian tradition, lying was the ultimate sin. By painting his enemies as deceivers, Darius didn't just defeat them militarily, he erased their legitimacy in the cosmic order. What few realize is that the inscription's sheer inaccessibility was part of the message. Positioned 250 feet up the cliff, it was nearly impossible to read from the ground. This wasn't meant for ordinary citizens. It was a declaration to the gods themselves, a permanent record etched where only eagles and the divine could see it clearly. Today, as scholars decode the subtle differences between the 3 language versions, like how the Babylonian text downplays Zoroastrian elements to appeal to local beliefs, we're witnessing one of history's first multinational PR campaigns. Darius didn't just win the throne, he rewrote the story of his reign in stone, ensuring that even now, 2,500 years later, we're still deciphering his carefully constructed version of the truth. Nestled in the rocky hills of western Iran, tacky Boston's massive arched niches house some of the most visually stunning and conceptually puzzling reliefs from the Sasanian era. Unlike the stark proclamations of earlier Persian monuments, these carvings unfold like pages from an illuminated manuscript, blending royal grandeur with layers of hidden allegory. Step beneath the largest arch, and you're greeted by the towering figure of Khosrow II astride his armored warhorse, frozen mid-charge. At first glance, it's a standard celebration of martial prowess until you notice the peculiar details. The king's spear pierces nothing, his horse's hooves hover above the ground, and tucked beneath the saddle, a tiny boar's head peers out from the decorative trappings. These aren't artistic accidents, they're deliberate clues pointing to a deeper narrative. That boar, for instance, was the emblem of the Zoroastrian god Varithragna, a deity of victory and cosmic order. By including it, the artisans weren't just decorating a saddle, they were signaling the king's divine mandate, transforming a battle scene into a visual parable of heavenly favor. Similarly, the weightless horse and suspended spear suggest this isn't a literal depiction of combat, but a symbolic representation of Khosrow's eternal vigilance over the empire. The smaller niche holds an even richer puzzle, a royal investiture scene where the king receives his crown not from a priest or predecessor, but from two figures long assumed to be the gods Ahura Mazda and Anahita. Yet recent studies reveal anomalies. The gods wear crowns identical to those of Sasanian nobility, and their postures mirror diplomatic gestures from contemporary treaties. Could this actually depict a political alliance disguised as divine sanction to strengthen royal legitimacy? The ambiguity is intentional. Sasanian rulers excelled at this visual double-speak, crafting images that worked on multiple levels for different audiences. Commoners saw divine approval, while rival nobles recognized veiled threats. Most perplexing of all is the enigmatic hunting panel, where Khosrow hunts deer and boars across two superimposed registers. At first, it seems like straightforward royal propaganda, until you spot the unnatural groupings of animals and the king's repeated appearances in the same scene. Some scholars argue this represents a Zoroastrian allegory of the soul's journey, with prey symbolizing vices and the hunt mirroring spiritual purification. Others point to the precise count of animals, exactly the number of provinces in Khosrow's empire, suggesting it's a coded map of political control. The true brilliance of tacky Boston lies in its refusal to be pinned down. Even the arches themselves may hold meaning, their curvature matching the celestial vault in Zoroastrian cosmology, turning the entire site into a stone replica of the heavens. While modern technology has revealed faded pigments hinting at an originally vibrant blue and gold color scheme, the most profound messages remain just out of reach, locked in a visual language we're still learning to read. Perhaps that's exactly how the Sasanians intended it, their power not just in what these carvings say, but in all they carefully chose not to explain. Deep in the arid plains of Khuzestan, the massive terraced bulk of Chogha Zanbil rises like a staircase to the heavens, one of the few surviving ziggurats outside Mesopotamia. But this isn't just a temple, it's a stone embodiment of celestial harmony, its every angle and alignment whispering secrets of a lost astronomical tradition. Built by the Elamite king Untashnaparisha around 1300 BC, the structure's 5 concentric tiers originally gleamed with glazed blue bricks, mirroring the vault of the sky itself. What most visitors miss, though, isn't the grandeur, it's the precision. Every measurement, every turn of its staircases seems to follow a hidden logic that ties Earth to cosmos. Start with its orientation. While most ancient temples face cardinal directions, Chogha Zanbil's corners align perfectly with the sunrise on the summer solstice, casting shadows that slice diagonally across the lower terraces at mathematically significant angles. Archaeoastronomers have noted that the angles between its staircases correspond to key lunar phases, particularly the 18.6-year cycle of the moon's wobble, a phenomenon the Elamites shouldn't have known. Yet there it is, encoded in brick and mortar. Even more striking, the ziggurate's base dimensions form a near-perfect golden rectangle, a ratio sacred to later Greek mathematicians but appearing here centuries before Pythagoras. The real mystery lies in the temple's drainage system. Far from mere practicality, its channels follow intricate patterns that mirror the Elamite star charts discovered on clay tablets nearby. Heavy rains would send water cascading down specific grooves, creating temporary rivers that recreated constellations sacred to Inshushinak, the city's patron deity. This wasn't just architecture, it was a hydraulic planetarium turning celestial movements into tangible flows. Then there's the matter of the missing seventh tier. Early texts describe Chogha Zanbil as a 7-level structure, yet only 5 remain. Some scholars argue the upper tiers were deliberately removed, not by time but by design. The surviving height matches the exact elevation needed to observe Venus's 8-year cycle from its central altar, suggesting the lost levels might have been symbolic, representing realms beyond human observation. The most tantalizing clue, hidden beneath the foundation, workers discovered a network of hollow tubes filled with ash, an ancient insulation system, but the arrangement matches no known practical purpose. Instead, when mapped, the tubes form a near-perfect representation of the Pleiades star cluster, a group intimately tied to Elamite creation myths. Was this the builder's way of anchoring the ziggurate not just to the earth but to the stars themselves? Today, as laser scans reveal previously unnoticed indentations along the walls, each spaced at intervals corresponding to prime numbers, we're left to wonder, was Chogha Zanbil a temple, an observatory, or a 3-dimensional cipher holding truths we've yet to decipher? The stones hold their silence, but the precision speaks volumes. In every measured line, the Elamites left a challenge not just to admire their work but to understand it. Rising from the edge of Iran's Lut Desert like a mirage, the sprawling Arg-e-Bam citadel stands as the world's largest mud brick complex, a labyrinth of walls, towers, and hidden chambers that have guarded their secrets for over 2,000 years. While its sun-baked exterior appears impenetrable, the real mystery lies within its walls, where a network of concealed compartments and cryptic markings suggest this was far more than just a military stronghold. Recent explorations reveal narrow tunnels barely wide enough for a person to crawl through, their ceilings studded with strange protrusions that some researchers believe functioned as ancient acoustic conduits. Whispered words spoken in one of the citadel's watchtowers could travel astonishing distances through these channels, reaching the governor's quarters with eerie clarity. Was this an early warning system against invaders or something more covert? The placement of these passages aligns suspiciously well with areas where important prisoners were once held, fueling theories that interrogators used the hidden acoustics to stage divine voices during questioning, manipulating captives into confessions. Even more intriguing are the recessed niches found along certain corridors, their interiors marked with symbols that match no known writing system. Some resemble astrological signs, while others look like rudimentary maps. Then there's the matter of the citadel's storerooms. Unlike typical granaries, these chambers feature elevated floors and unusual ventilation patterns that would have made them disastrous for food preservation, but ideal for safeguarding something far more valuable. Scrolls, texts, knowledge. Local legends speak of a vast underground library beneath Bam, its existence hinted at by hollow echoes beneath the courtyard stones. When archaeologists used ground-penetrating radar, they detected anomalous voids matching the dimensions of manuscript repositories found in other Silk Road cities. Could Arg-e-Bam have been a way station for esoteric texts traveling between East and West, their contents deemed too dangerous for open transport? The most compelling evidence comes from the citadel's water system. Among the normal channels and cisterns, engineers found several deliberately concealed pipes leading to isolated chambers, perfect for smuggling small objects unseen. Near one such passage, a brick bears a faint but deliberate impression of two overlapping squares, a symbol historically used by secret societies to mark hidden knowledge. Whether these features served as smuggling routes for forbidden artifacts, communication lines for spies, or something even more mysterious remains unknown. The earthquake that devastated Bam in 2003 exposed previously hidden sections of the citadel, revealing frescoes depicting figures holding objects resembling cipher discs. As restoration continues, each cleared passage seems to deepen the enigma rather than solve it. What emerges is a portrait not just of a fortress but of a nexus, a place where military might and clandestine operations intertwined. The very bricks seem to whisper of messengers moving unseen, of treasures hidden in plain sight, of knowledge too potent to be left unguarded. In a world where walls could talk, Arg-e-Bam's mud brick husk may yet have the most astonishing stories to tell. Cutting through the rocky landscape of southwestern Iran, the Chogha hydraulic system isn't just a marvel of ancient engineering, it's a stone and water manifesto, a bold declaration of human mastery over nature. Built during the reign of the Sasanian king Shapur I, this labyrinth of canals, dams, and waterfalls transforms the relentless flow of the Karan River into a symphony of controlled power. But look beyond the sheer functionality, and you'll notice something extraordinary. Every arch, every channel, every sluice gate seems designed to send a message as much as to move water. Take the system's crown jewel, the Band-e-Kaisar, a colossal Roman-style arch bridge dam. At first glance, it's a pragmatic solution to irrigation and defense. Yet its very existence is a political statement. Historical records suggest Roman engineers captured in battle were forced to build it, their expertise co-opted to demonstrate Sasanian superiority. The dam's hybrid design merges Roman precision with Persian grandeur, a not-so-subtle metaphor for an empire that could assimilate even its greatest rivals. Then there are the watermills, their carefully placed wheels grinding grain in perfect synchronization with the river's seasonal flows. Archaeologists recently discovered faint carvings near their bases, not practical instructions, but intricate diagrams of celestial constellations. Were these navigational aids for engineers, or a symbolic link between earthly abundance and cosmic order? The mill's alignment offers another clue. On the summer solstice, sunlight pierces a series of narrow channels, illuminating specific carvings for just a few minutes. One such carving depicts Anahita, the Zoroastrian water goddess, her outstretched arms mirroring the branching canals below. The most tantalizing secrets lie in the system's hidden chambers. Beneath the main waterfall, divers found a submerged tunnel with walls scored by unusual markings, neither cuneiform nor Pahlavi script, but a series of fluid, wave-like symbols. Some researchers believe these represent water pressure equations, a coded engineering manual left for future generations. Others argue the symbols match descriptions of a secret Sasanian water language mentioned in medieval texts, used to communicate sensitive information across long distances. Perhaps the system's true genius lies in what it doesn't do. Unlike Roman aqueducts that forced water into submission, Chogha works with the river's natural rhythms. Its weirs and Chinese letter channels designed to mimic the branching patterns of ancient Persian gardens. This wasn't domination, it was a dialogue, a technological ode to harmony between empire and environment. Even today, as satellite imaging reveals previously unknown underground channels snaking toward long-vanished palaces, we're left to wonder, was Chogha's water more than just a resource? Could its carefully choreographed flows have been a liquid cipher, a royal signature written across the landscape itself? Piercing the skyline of northern Iran like a stone spear, the 1,000-year-old Gonbad-e stands as a marvel of both architectural ambition and hidden intellect. At first glance, this 250-foot brick tower appears to be a straightforward tomb for a medieval ruler. but its true genius lies in dimensions too precise to be accidental. Every measurement, every angle of this UNESCO-listed monument whispers a sophisticated dialogue between mathematics, astronomy, and royal ideology. Start with its proportions. The tower's height exactly equals its diameter at the base, 57 meters, creating a perfect ratio that medieval scholars associated with cosmic harmony. But the precision goes deeper. The structure's 10 triangular buttresses mirror the intervals of the Islamic decimal system, while the brickwork spirals upward in a pattern matching the Fibonacci sequence, a mathematical progression unknown in Europe for another 2 centuries. Was this just aesthetic brilliance or a deliberate nod to unseen universal patterns? Then there's the matter of alignment. Unlike typical Islamic tombs oriented toward Mecca, Gonbad-e-Kabas points unerringly to the North Star of its era Polaris. At its completion in 1006 AD, the tower's shadow at noon on the spring equinox would have bisected the nearby city of Gorgan like a sundial's hand, marking the start of the Persian New Year with geometric exactness. Even more remarkably, the small window near its summit frames specific constellations during key dates in the Zoroastrian calendar, evidence that the tower served as both observatory and ceremonial timekeeper. The tower's cylindrical form holds another secret: its acoustic properties. Recent studies show that a whisper at its base travels upward with unnatural clarity, allowing words spoken at ground level to be heard near the summit. Some historians speculate this was no architectural fluke, but a carefully engineered effect. Imagine a ruler's final proclamation echoing through the hollow core, his voice literally ascending to the heavens, a visceral metaphor for legacy carved in physics. Most tantalizing are the Kufic inscriptions encircling the tower. While their surface message praises the Kabas dynasty, cryptographers have noted the spacing between letters corresponds to numerical values in medieval star charts. When these values are plotted, they map the positions of planets on the exact date of the ruler's death. Was this an ancient barcode of celestial data, or a symbolic bridge between earthly power and cosmic order? Gonbad-e-Kabas refuses to be just another relic. In every baked brick, in every calculated angle, it proclaims a truth its builders knew well. That true power lies not in dominating nature, but in speaking its hidden language. Rising from the plains of Zanjan like a turquoise jewel, the Sultani-e dome dominates the horizon with its otherworldly glow, but the true marvel lies closer to the surface. Wander inside this 14th century masterpiece, and you're immediately enveloped by a swirling cosmos of calligraphy, its Arabic script cascading across walls, arches, and even the underside of the dome itself in dizzying patterns. At first glance, these inscriptions appear to be standard Quranic verses, a pious decoration for the tomb of Ilkhanid ruler Urjatu. But linger a little longer and peculiar details emerge. Letters subtly elongated, words intentionally spaced to form hidden geometric shapes, entire phrases that seem to spiral inward like a sacred maze. Scholars have long debated whether these textual anomalies are artistic flourishes or something far more intentional. Recent high-resolution scans revealed that certain passages, when viewed from specific angles, resolve into mirror images of Sufi meditation diagrams, interlocking circles and triangles used by mystics to visualize divine unity. One particularly dense patch of script near the mausoleum's southwest corner, when traced on paper, forms an exact replica of the Seal of Solomon, a potent symbol in Islamic esotericism. Even more compelling, the dome's acoustic properties amplify whispers spoken directly beneath these symbols, creating an eerie resonance that some argue mimics the harmonic chanting of dervish rituals. Then there's the matter of the doubled verses. Throughout the interior, certain Quranic passages repeat with slight variations, a single word altered, a phrase reversed. To casual observers, these might seem like scribble errors, but Sufi scholars recognize them as hallmarks of ilm al-huruf, the science of letters, where minute textual changes encode deeper metaphysical truths. One recurring alteration swaps light nur for fire na, a possible reference to the Zoroastrian roots of Urgetu's ancestors, subtly woven into Islamic scripture. The most tantalizing theory involves the dome's 8 monumental inscriptions. While 7 are clearly verses from the Quran, the 8th remains unidentified, its script stylized to near abstraction. Some researchers suggest it's a coded account of Urgetu's controversial conversion from Sunni to Shia Islam, disguised as sacred text to avoid persecution. Others believe it marks the location of a hidden chamber. Ground-penetrating radar has detected anomalies beneath precisely this section of flooring. What's undeniable is the dome's mathematical brilliance. The calligraphy isn't just applied to the architecture, it defines it. Each line of text corresponds to precise points in the dome's structural stress distribution, the thickness of the plaster adjusted to accommodate the weight of the letters. This fusion of art and engineering suggests the inscriptions weren't added after construction, but were integral to the building's very conception. Perhaps the ultimate message lies not in the words themselves, but in their physical embodiment, a testament to the belief that divine wisdom and earthly creation are inseparable. As sunlight filters through the lattice windows, painting the script in ever-shifting patterns, Sultani's true lesson becomes clear. Some truths aren't meant to be read but experienced. The Jame Mosque of Isfahan unfolds like a living manuscript, its sprawling courtyards and vaulted arches whispering secrets in the language of geometry. Step inside and you're immediately enveloped by a symphony of patterns, interlocking stars, spiraling arabesques, and tessellating tiles that seem to pulse with hidden rhythms. But this isn't mere decoration. It's a meticulously coded dialogue between faith and mathematics, where every line and curve serves as a theological argument in stone. Take the mosque's iconic south dome, its interior surface a kaleidoscope of nested pentagons and decagons. At first glance, the design dazzles with its complexity. But trace the shapes with your eye and you'll notice something extraordinary. The angles between the pillars correspond to precise astronomical alignments. During the summer solstice, sunlight filters through a series of strategically placed apertures, projecting a moving pattern that mirrors the path of Venus, a celestial nod to the mosque's role as both spiritual compass and cosmic observatory. Even more striking, the dome's acoustics amplify specific frequencies during prayer, creating a resonance that some scholars believe mimics the harmonic intervals described in medieval Sufi texts as the music of the spheres. Then there's the courtyard's rectangular layout, which at first appears perfectly symmetrical, but measure carefully and you'll find subtle asymmetries, a deliberate choice rooted in Islamic metaphysics. The eastern arcades stretch slightly longer than their western counterparts, a visual representation of the Quranic concept of balance with variance, the idea that divine perfection embraces measured difference. The alternating bands of brick and tile in the walls reinforce this philosophy, their proportions matching the golden ratio, a mathematical constant revered in Islamic thought as evidence of God's fingerprint in creation. Perhaps the most tantalizing cipher lies in the mosque's famed muqarnas vaulting. These honeycomb-like structures aren't just architectural marvels, they're three-dimensional representations of Quranic cosmology. Each concave niche symbolizes a level of existence, from the material world at the base to the divine throne at the apex. Count the cells in certain sections, and you'll arrive at numbers with deep significance in Islamic mysticism, 99 echoing the names of God, or 12 reflecting the Shia imams. Some researchers argue these vaults functioned as mnemonic devices, their physical contours guiding worshippers through intricate theological concepts during meditation. The mosque's minarets hold their own mysteries. Unlike typical towers built for the call to prayer, Isfahan's paired minarets frame the mihrab with uncanny precision. When viewed from the courtyard's geometric center, their alignment forms an invisible equilateral triangle with the Qibla wall, a shape historically associated with divine unity in Persian Neoplatonism. Even the brickwork tells a story. Certain courses are laid with alternating raised and recessed patterns that, when studied under raking light, reveal faint outlines of Arabic letters spelling out verses from the Hadith of Gabriel, a foundational text distinguishing mere belief from deeper spiritual understanding. What emerges is a structure that refuses to be merely seen. It demands to be read, solved, experienced. From the fractal-like repetition of its tilework to the celestial choreography of its shadows, the Jame Mosque transcends its role as a place of worship. It becomes a portal, a silent teacher using the universal language of mathematics to whisper truths that transcend words. The real miracle isn't just that 12th century architects conceived such brilliance, but that they embedded it so seamlessly into the very fabric of the building, ensuring their message would endure not through dogma, but through the irresistible pull of beauty itself. At the heart of Isfahan's royal square, the Ali Kapı Palace conceals an auditory marvel within its elegant facade. Ascend to the 6th-floor music room, and you'll step into what might be history's most sophisticated sound chamber, a space where architecture bends acoustics to its will. The walls here aren't just decorated, they're engineered, perforated with thousands of meticulously placed niches shaped like vases, bottles, and musical instruments. Early European travelers dismissed these as mere ornamental whimsy, but modern researchers have uncovered their extraordinary secret. Each hollow form is precisely tuned to amplify specific frequencies while dampening others. Whisper near one of the wine flask-shaped recesses, and your voice carries with uncanny clarity to the opposite corner, yet remains inaudible to those standing just feet away. This isn't accidental craftsmanship. The niches function like a giant three-dimensional soundboard, allowing musicians to perform secret harmonies that only certain listeners could perceive. Court records suggest Shah Abbas used this effect during diplomatic audiences, positioning foreign envoys in acoustic shadows, while his advisors received whispered warnings through the walls. The real magic emerges when musicians play traditional Persian instruments in this space. The ovoid niches enhance the Santa's metallic tones while rounding the sharper edges of the ney flute, creating a resonant blend that seems to emanate from the air itself. Experiments with replica instruments reveal that certain combinations of notes trigger sympathetic vibrations in the plaster, producing phantom harmonics, additional tones that weren't actually played. Some musicologists believe this was the palace's hidden language, compositions conveying covert messages through these ultrasonic overtones, perceptible only to trained courtiers. Most astonishing is the ceiling's central medallion. Its intricate muqarnas design forms a fractal sound diffuser, scattering music evenly without echoes, an acoustic principle modern concert halls wouldn't rediscover for centuries. But the pattern holds another secret. When mapped mathematically, it recreates the frequency response of the human ear canal. This means the room isn't just amplifying sound, it's shaping it to be perceived as more natural by our auditory biology, a psychoacoustic trick that would make speeches or propaganda feel instinctively truthful to listeners. A recent discovery adds another layer. Beneath the floorboards, archaeologists found narrow ceramic tubes connecting to chambers below. When reconstructed, these pipes create a subtle drone note at 54 Hz, the exact frequency shown to induce trance states in brainwave studies. Was this Persia's version of subliminal messaging, using architecture to bypass conscious thought and speak directly to emotion? The walls may have outlasted the empire's secrets, but their carefully tuned hollows still hum with the ghosts of unheard conversations. Hidden in plain sight on the eastern side of Isfahan's Naqsh-e Square, the Sheikh Lotfollah Mosque performs a silent miracle of light and shadow every sunrise. Unlike its grander neighbors, this unassuming sanctuary holds a secret in its dome, a celestial dance engineered into the very bricks, As dawn breaks, a single beam of sunlight slips through a high window, crawling inch by inch across the interior like a heavenly finger tracing a message only the initiated can read. The precision is staggering. That wandering sunspot doesn't move randomly. It follows a precise path along intricate tile patterns, pausing at specific calligraphic inscriptions at exact times. Persian architects embedded a hidden calendar in the dome's geometry. On the spring equinox, the light perfectly illuminates a Quranic verse about renewal. By summer solstice, it frames the name Ali in shimmering gold, a nod to Shia veneration of the first Imam. Some scholars argue the entire interior functions as a monumental sundial, with certain tiles darkening predictably to mark prayer times without mechanical clocks. But the real marvel is the dome's color transformation. The sunlight filtering through its lattice windows interacts with special cobalt pigments in the tiles, shifting the interior from pale cream at dawn to deep celestial blue by midday, a visual metaphor for the soul's ascent from earthly concerns to divine contemplation. Modern spectrographic analysis reveals the tiles contain minuscule glass particles that refract light at specific angles, proving this chromatic alchemy was no accident, but physics harnessed for spiritual theater. Most mysteriously, the light show changes with the seasons in ways that defy simple explanation. During winter months, reflected light from the square's polished stones projects intricate arabesque patterns onto the ceiling patterns that precisely match medieval Persian star charts. Could this have been an astronomical teaching tool disguised as decoration? The mosque's acoustics add another layer. When the noon sun hits the central medallion, the space resonates at a frequency that makes whispered prayers audible across the entire chamber, as if the building itself amplifies devotion. Recent laser scans uncovered faint grooves in the dome's curvature, almost imperceptible channels that guide condensation away from critical tile areas. This ensures the light effects remain undistorted even in humid weather, a safeguard preserving the celestial dialogue across centuries. What emerges is a masterwork of sacred engineering, where every brick serves both physical and metaphysical functions. The mosque doesn't just house worship, it performs it, translating the sun's journey into a language of faith written in photons and geometry. For those who know how to watch, the walls don't just reflect light, they speak with it. Tucked away in Isfahan's historic Armenian quarter, the vibrant frescoes of Vank Cathedral tell a story far richer than their surface beauty. On first glance, this 17th century church appears typically Christian, its domed sanctuary adorned with scenes of saints and biblical narratives. But lean in closer, and the walls begin whispering an astonishing cultural secret. Every brushstroke here carries a dual meaning, a visual bridge between Armenian Christianity and Persian artistic tradition that reveals how deeply these cultures intertwined under Safavid rule. Take the cathedral's famed Last Judgment mural. While its central Christ figure follows European iconography, the swirling clouds beneath his feet mirror the delicate cloud bands of Persian miniatures, a motif symbolizing divine presence in Islamic art. Even more telling are the angels flanking the scene. Their postures replicate those of winged Faravahas from nearby Zoroastrian temples, their halos blending the Christian nimbus with the radiant sun discs of Persian royalty. This wasn't accidental assimilation. The Armenian artists commissioned by Shah Abbas were masters of subtext, embedding their frescoes with visual cues that honored both their faith and their Persian patrons. The real marvel lies in the cathedral's ceiling. What seems like standard celestial imagery reveals, upon inspection, a masterclass in cultural coding. The golden stars aren't randomly placed, they form precise constellations matching those on contemporary Safavid coinage, a subtle nod to the Shah's authority. Nestled between biblical scenes, intricate arabesques mimic the patterns of Isfahan's mosques, their geometric perfection belying their sacred geometry. Most striking is the repeated use of pomegranates, an Armenian symbol of resurrection, rendered in the exact style of Persian paradise garden illustrations. The message couldn't be clearer. Salvation and earthly power were two sides of the same artistic coin. Down at eye level, the frescoes grow bolder. Scenes of martyrdom feature executioners in Ottoman turbans, a politically savvy choice that underscored shared Safavid-Armenian animosity toward their common rival. Yet these figures wear belts adorned with Persian poetry, their swords curved like ceremonial commas. Even the palette tells a story. The vibrant blues didn't come from European pigments, but from the same lapis lazuli mines that supplied Persia's tilemakers, ground using techniques Armenian refugees brought from their homeland. The cathedral's piece de resistance hides in plain sight, a mural of Eden where the tree of life bears uncanny resemblance to the cypress trees in Persian miniature paintings, their trunks twisting into Arabic letters spelling Allah when viewed from specific angles. This wasn't syncretism, it was survival artistry. By weaving Persian elements into sacred Christian art, the community safeguarded its identity while demonstrating loyalty to the Shah. Recent restoration work uncovered even deeper layers. Beneath the visible frescoes, infrared imaging revealed preliminary sketches where biblical figures originally wore Safavid-style crowns, later painted over with halos. The artists left one clue untouched: the Virgin Mary's robe, patterned with tiny Shah seals visible only in certain light. In a world where religious minorities walked a tightrope, Vank's walls became a canvas for coded conversations, proving that sometimes the boldest statements are those only the initiated can see. What emerges isn't just a church, but a testament to the extraordinary dialogue that flourished when cultures chose brushstrokes over battle lines. Every inch of these walls pulses with dual devotion to the Christian God above and the Persian kings who allowed his worship below. In Vank's golden shadows, two worlds didn't just coexist, they collaborated, creating a visual language where faith and diplomacy shared the same pigments. Stepping into Kashan's Fin Garden feels like walking into a living manuscript, one where every tree, fountain, and pathway has been carefully placed to tell a story far grander than mere beauty. At first glance, it's a masterpiece of Persian landscaping, with geometric flowerbeds and turquoise-tiled pavilions reflected in tranquil pools. But look deeper, and the garden reveals itself as a three-dimensional map of the cosmos, its design steeped in Zoroastrian and Sufi symbolism. The key lies in its water channels, which don't just nourish the plants, they trace the same sacred patterns found in ancient Persian star charts, mirroring the celestial rivers believed to flow through paradise. Start with the garden's four central intersecting streams, dividing the space into quadrants. This isn't just practical irrigation, it's a deliberate echo of the Zoroastrian Chahar Bog concept, where four sacred rivers representing the elements of water, earth, fire, and air flow from a divine spring at the center of creation. The water's journey through the garden mimics the soul's spiritual progression, bubbling energetically from fountains in the north symbolizing earthly life, slowing to serene pools in the south, the approach to enlightenment. Then there are the garden's cypress trees, their towering forms deliberately mirrored in the channels below. Scholars note how their reflections align with specific water jets at certain times of day, creating ephemeral shapes resembling the Faravaha symbol, an artistic sleight of hand suggesting the divine presence hidden within nature. Even the sound of flowing water plays its part. Stand near the garden's central pavilion during dawn, and the acoustics amplify the gentle trickle into a rhythmic pulse, matching the meditative breathing techniques described in Sufi poetry. The real genius lies in the garden's seasonal transformations. Plantings were carefully chosen so their bloom cycles correspond to Persian festivals. Pomegranates flowering at Naqsh symbolizing rebirth, roses peaking during Mayregan celebrating love's endurance. This wasn't just horticultural precision, it was a living calendar synchronizing human life with cosmic rhythms. Most intriguing are the garden's hidden sightlines. From the main terrace, 12 distinct vantage points frame specific architectural features against distant mountains. a subtle nod to the 12 constellations of the Persian zodiac. Recent drone surveys revealed these alignments match solar events. During the winter solstice, shadows from the pavilion's columns stretch precisely along a water channel to point at a distant peak sacred to pre-Islamic sky worshippers. Fin Garden's ultimate lesson may be in its restraint. Unlike European gardens that dominate nature with sculpted hedges, this space whispers its wisdom through subtle harmonies, water bending to geometry, light choreographed with shadow, earthly beauty reflecting celestial order. It doesn't just depict paradise, it becomes a portal to it, inviting visitors to read the universe in the ripple of a fountain or the curve of a petal. The garden's designers understood something profound. That truth often hides not in grand declarations, but in the quiet spaces between them. Perched high in Iran's Caucasus Mountains, the crimson-hued village of Abiene looks like a fading sunset frozen in clay and wood. Its terracotta buildings cling to steep slopes in dizzying tiers, their mud brick walls stained a deep red from iron-rich soil. But the true color of this ancient settlement isn't just in its earth. Every beam, every doorway, every strangely sloped roof holds layers of meaning that scholars believe encode forgotten beliefs from Persia's pre-Islamic past. Walk through the labyrinthine alleys and you'll notice symbols carved into wooden lintels that match no known Islamic decorative tradition. Some resemble stylized flames, others echo the Faravahar symbol of Zoroastrianism, and a few show sun discs with radiating lines almost identical to those found in Sasanian fire temples. The village's unusual layout tells its own story. Unlike typical Islamic-era settlements clustered around mosques, Abiene's houses spiral outward from a central elevated point where archaeologists found traces of what might have been a Zoroastrian fire altar. Even more telling are the house's ventilation systems, small, strategically placed openings that create constant airflow. During winter solstice, these channels align perfectly to sweep smoke from hearths in patterns that form swirling Faravahar shapes before dissipating. Was this practical design, sacred geometry, or both? Then there's the matter of the red hue itself. While the iron oxide explains the color, the intensity of the staining suggests generations deliberately reinforced it, almost as if maintaining the shade held significance. In Zoroastrian cosmology, red symbolized the divine radiance of fire, the living embodiment of truth. Contemporary villagers still practice a curious ritual. Each spring, they apply fresh red clay mixed with water from a single sacred spring, chanting verses that linguists argue contain fragments of Avestan, the ancient language of Zoroastrian scripture. Doorways reveal another layer of mystery. Many homes feature thresholds carved with 7 grooves, an odd feature until you realize 7 was the holiest number in Zoroastrianism, representing the Amsha-Spenta divine emanations. Some grooves contain tiny ceramic beads that rattle when stepped on, a possible remnant of purification rituals where visitors announced their presence to ward off evil spirits. Most compelling are the ceiling beams in older houses, each marked with symbols resembling cuneiform numerals. When mapped collectively, these markings align to form what looks like a crude but accurate star chart centered on Polaris knowledge supposedly lost in this region after the Arab conquest. Could Abiene have been a living ark, preserving not just people but forbidden knowledge through architecture? The village's isolation allowed traditions to fossilize like insects in amber, guarding messages in plain sight. Today, as anthropologists document fading customs like the orientation of bread ovens to catch the equinox sunrise, we're left to wonder how much was practicality and how much was quiet rebellion against cultural erasure written in the very walls. Rising from the fertile plains of Kangavar, the imposing stone terraces of the Anahita Temple have baffled archaeologists for centuries. At first glance, this 2,000-year-old structure appears to be a typical Zoroastrian fire temple, but the closer you examine its weathered blocks, the clearer it becomes that every inch of this sanctuary was designed to honor something far more fluid, the divine essence of water itself. The temple's central courtyard holds the first clue, a massive, circular basin precisely aligned so that the spring equinox sunrise glints across its surface, transforming the still water into a rippling mirror of light. This wasn't just decorative. Ancient texts describe how priests would add saffron and marigold petals to the water at dawn, their vibrant colors refracting through the sunlight to cast shifting patterns on the surrounding columns, a visual representation of Anahita's legendary cloak, said to be woven from liquid stars. The real marvel lies in the temple's hidden hydraulics. Beneath the courtyard, a network of narrow channels directs rainwater along specific paths, funneling it through carved spouts shaped like mythical sea creatures. When reconstructed, these channels produce distinct musical tones as water flows through them, an aquatic symphony that matches the modal scales of ancient Yasna hymns. Some researchers believe this was no coincidence, but an attempt to literally harmonize human worship with the element the goddess embodied. Even more striking are the temple's so-called weeping walls, sections of porous stone that absorb moisture from the air, then slowly release it in droplets that trace the contours of carved fertility symbols during certain lunar phases. Then there are the column capitals, each adorned with a unique arrangement of lotus blossoms and wave patterns. At first, these seem like generic floral motifs, until you notice how their petals are spaced at intervals matching the Fibonacci sequence, a mathematical pattern found in water's natural turbulence. The message is unmistakable. This architecture doesn't just celebrate water, it mimics its sacred geometry. Most tantalizing are the recently discovered subsurface chambers, where groundwater seeping through the walls has left mineral deposits in precise lines resembling Avestan script. One such formation eerily mirrors a phrase from the Aban Yashtim, Anahita, whose waters stand not stagnant, whose wisdom flows without end. The temple's piece de resistance reveals itself at high noon during the summer solstice. As sunlight pours through strategically placed apertures in the upper colonnade, shadows and light converge on the central altar to form the illusion of a flowing river across its surface, a phenomenon that lasts exactly 21 minutes, the sacred number associated with Anahita in Zoroastrian numerology. Modern laser scans confirm the river's path follows the ancient course of the nearby Koramabad River before it was diverted, suggesting the temple may have functioned as a spiritual map linking earthly waters to celestial ones. What emerges is a sanctuary where every stone speaks the language of liquid divinity. From the acoustics of its fountains to the celestial choreography of its shadows, the Anahita temple doesn't just honor a goddess, it becomes her living manifestation, a place where architecture blurs the line between the material and the miraculous. The real ritual wasn't in the prayers offered here, but in the act of witnessing how water, stone, and light could conspire to reveal truths too profound for words alone. On the windswept plains near Iran's western border, the crumbling arches of Qasr-e-Shirin rise like a half-remembered dream, a palace built not for war or worship, but for a love story so enduring it blurred the line between history and myth. According to Persian folklore, the Sasanian king Khosrow II ordered these very stones laid to win the heart of Shirin, an Armenian princess who refused to marry him unless he recreated her mountainous homeland in the arid lowlands. At first glance, the ruins appear to be a straightforward romantic gesture, but the architecture tells a far more complex tale, one where passion and politics intertwine as intricately as the palace's faded mosaics. Start with the water channels threading through the complex. Unlike typical Persian gardens that channel water for irrigation, these narrow aqueducts trace the exact contours of Armenia's Araxes River, their carefully calculated bends mirroring its natural course. Some scholars argue this hydrological homage was more than sentimental, it was a geopolitical statement. By recreating Armenian geography on Persian soil, Khosrow symbolically claimed Shirin's homeland without conquest, turning romance into soft diplomacy. The channels even feed into a central pool positioned where Shirin's private chambers once stood, its depth matching the exact height of Armenia's Lake Van above sea level. Then there's the palace's orientation. While most Sasanian structures face the rising sun, Chogha Shirin's main terrace angles toward the northwest, directly aligned with Mount Ararat, Shirin's childhood landmark visible from her Armenian homeland. Astronomical software reveals this alignment wasn't just symbolic. On the summer solstice, the setting sun would have framed the mountain's silhouette in the palace's central arch, bathing the courtyard in golden light precisely when Armenian traditions celebrated Vardava, the festival of water and love. But the real intrigue lies in the stonework itself. Faded reliefs depict scenes from the famous romance Khosrow kneeling before Shirin, the couple hunting together, yet hidden among these carvings are subtle political messages. Notice how Shirin is consistently portrayed wearing a Persian diadem alongside Armenian jewelry, her posture mirroring Sasanian queenly iconography. This wasn't just artistic flattery. Contemporary accounts suggest Shirin used her influence to broker peace between the empires, and these images may have served as propaganda, visually cementing her role as a bridge between cultures. The most tantalizing clue hides in the palace's neglected western wing. Here, archaeologists uncovered a series of hollow wall niches containing ceramic vessels too small for storage, yet perfectly sized to amplify whispers between adjoining rooms. Persian love poetry often describes clandestine conversations between the couple, and these architectural ear portals suggest their legendary private dialogues weren't just poetic license but physical reality. Even more telling are the niches' acoustic properties. They selectively amplify female voices while muffling male tones, a design that would have given Shirin literal dominance in covert discussions. What emerges is a monument where every stone serves dual purposes. The romantic fountains also map political boundaries. The lover's gazebo doubles as a diplomatic chamber, and the very walls seem designed to facilitate both pillow talk and statecraft. Recent LiDAR scans reveal even deeper layers beneath the visible foundations lie traces of an earlier structure with Zoroastrian fire altar placements, suggesting Khosrow built his love letter atop a site already sacred to cosmic harmony. In the end, Chogha Shirin's true message may be this: the greatest romances aren't just affairs of the heart, but intricate dances where personal passion and national destiny move to the same rhythm, their footprints preserved in stone long after the music fades. Nestled high in Iran's volcanic highlands, the ruins of Naqsh-e Solomon rise like a mirage, a sprawling complex centered around an eerily still turquoise pool fed by natural springs. At first glance, this UNESCO-listed site appears to be just another ancient fire temple, its crumbling walls whispering of Zoroastrian rituals long faded into history. But venture closer and the stones begin to tell a different story. This wasn't merely a place of worship, it was a sacred vault, its every feature designed to guard secrets as zealously as the eternal flames once kept burning in its inner sanctum. The pool itself holds the first clue to this enigma. While most Zoroastrian water temples feature flowing streams, Naqsh-e Solomon's central basin is eerily placid, its surface reflecting the sky like polished obsidian. Geological surveys reveal why. The pool sits directly above a dormant volcanic vent, its waters kept perpetually still by subtle geothermal currents. To the ancients, this unnatural calm would have been divine proof of the site's sanctity, a liquid mirror believed to reveal truths to those who gazed into its depths. Chronicles from Sasanian rulers speak of oracular rituals conducted here, where priests interpreted distortions in the water's surface as messages from Ahura Mazda. Modern researchers suspect these distortions were caused by carefully timed offerings, certain metals or oils dropped into specific spots to create predictable ripples that answered petitioners' questions. Then there's the temple's most puzzling feature, a series of narrow, perfectly straight channels cut into the limestone surrounding the pool. Initially dismissed as drainage systems, laser mapping revealed these grooves align with celestial events. During the summer solstice, sunlight ricochets off the channel's polished edges, projecting a flickering band of light across the water's surface that precisely mimics the Zoroastrian sacred fire. Even more astonishing, the channel's angles correspond to the orbital paths of Venus and Jupiter, planets associated with Zoroastrian deities. Was this an ancient planetarium encoding astronomical knowledge into architecture? The ruins guard even darker secrets. Beneath the main courtyard, archaeologists uncovered a hidden chamber lined with lead plates, an extreme rarity in Zoroastrian construction. Scratched into these soft metal walls are fragments of text in Pahlavi script, their content heavily redacted with deliberate gouges. The legible portions mention the king's covenant and punishment for transgressors, leading scholars to speculate this was a clandestine archive for royal decrees too sensitive for public inscription. Infrared imaging revealed older text beneath the scratches, including repeated references to the dragon's breath, a possible codename for the site's volcanic gases harnessed to deter intruders. Most intriguing are the temple's so-called whispering walls. Certain sections of the remaining arcades possess uncanny acoustic properties, allowing a person speaking at one end to be heard clearly at the other, but only if they use specific tonal frequencies. Recent experiments showed that chanting the Avestan hymns at precise pitches makes the entire structure resonate, causing hidden compartments in the floor to vibrate open. These compartments contained clay tablets detailing advanced purification rites, including a startling passage describing how the waters could wash away falsehood from those who immersed themselves during lunar eclipses. Taqt-e Solomon's ultimate mystery may lie in its name, Throne of Solomon. Local legends claim the biblical king imprisoned jinns here, but the truth might be more profound. Sasanian seal impressions found on-site depict a peculiar throne design, its legs shaped like twisted columns of smoke, its seat hovering above the sacred pool. This wasn't just artistic fancy. When sunlight strikes the pool at midday during the equinoxes, reflections create the illusion of a hovering seat of light exactly where the seals depict it. The message is clear: this wasn't a throne for mortal kings, but a symbolic seat of divine judgment, where earth, water, and fire converge to separate truth from lies. As drones now map previously inaccessible sections of the ruins, revealing buried chambers arranged in perfect fractal patterns, one thing becomes certain: every stone here was placed with intention, every channel carved to serve both practical and esoteric purposes. Taqt-e Solomon doesn't just guard its secrets, it demands we prove ourselves worthy of uncovering them, one careful observation at a time. The real fire temple wasn't the structure above ground, but the labyrinth of meaning hidden in its bones, waiting centuries for someone to read between the lines. Rising from the stark expanse of Iran's Dasht-e Lut like a mirage made solid, the Rayan Citadel stands as a masterclass in defensive architecture, but its towering mud brick walls may guard more than just physical treasures. While its imposing silhouette and intricate bastions have long been studied for their military brilliance, recent examinations reveal something far subtler: a labyrinth of seemingly random grooves, notches, and symbols etched into the fortress's very fabric. These aren't weathering marks or builder's graffiti. They're a carefully organized system of communication, a stone-cold ledger of secrets waiting to be read. Start with the Citadel's gatehouse. The archway's inner surface bears rows of shallow indentations, each spaced at precise intervals. At first glance, they appear decorative until you notice how their patterns shift in specific sections. Military historians have matched these sequences to surviving Sasanian tactical manuals, suggesting they served as coded reminders for garrison rotations or supply quotas. One cluster near the gate's eastern hinge, for example, mirrors a passage from a recovered scroll detailing emergency ration distributions during sieges. Even more telling are the faint pigment traces in some grooves, hinting they were once color-coded for quick interpretation by stationed officers. Then there's the citadel's most puzzling feature, its asymmetrical stairwells. Unlike typical fortifications with uniform steps, Rayan's staircases vary dramatically in height and depth, some shallow enough to ascend effortlessly, others requiring near vertical climbs. This wasn't poor construction. Recent 3D mapping shows each stairway's irregularities correspond to markings on nearby walls, forming what archaeologists believe was a tactile navigation system for defenders moving in darkness or smoke. The steeper steps consistently align with wall carvings of Zoroastrian fire urns, a possible warning of restricted areas, while gentler stairs lead to chambers marked with symbols resembling Sasanian accounting numerals. The real cipher lies in the courtyard's central well. Its rim is incised with concentric circles intersected by radial lines, a pattern initially dismissed as ornamentation. But when compared to clay tablets found in Kerman's ruins, the design matches Sasanian bureaucratic notation for water rights allocations. Each line's angle and length corresponds to seasonal quotas, while the circles may represent drought contingencies. This transforms the well from a mere water source into a permanent administrative record, ensuring no commander could plead ignorance of resource laws. Most intriguing are the shadow signals embedded in the citadel's eastern wall. During certain months, sunlight passes through narrow slits in the upper battlements, projecting distinct shapes onto predetermined spots in the courtyard. One such slit aligns perfectly with the winter solstice sunrise, casting a diamond of light that, when mapped against the ground's brickwork, outlines the exact dimensions of a secret storeroom uncovered in 2018. Another projects a spearhead-shaped shadow during the harvest moon, a phenomenon chronicled in local folklore as the god's arrow, now believed to have marked the annual taxation period. What emerges is a fortress that functioned as both shield and scribe. Every brick seems to whisper of a society where martial order and bureaucratic precision were inseparable, where even the placement of a single groove could determine survival during a siege or fairness in times of scarcity. As drones now reveal previously unnoticed symbols on the citadel's windward side marks that may correlate with caravan routes or debtor ledgers, we're left to wonder, was Rayan's true defense not just its walls, but its ability to encode an empire's logic into the very stones that protected it? In this desert sentinel, knowledge wasn't just power, it was mortar. Rising from the plains of southeastern Iran, the Haruni-e dome's unassuming brick exterior belies the cosmic secrets pulsing within its walls. This 14th century Sufi shrine doesn't just honor the mystic Ahmad Kabir. It serves as a three-dimensional textbook of Persian spirituality, its every curve and inscription whispering hidden knowledge to those initiated in its symbolic language. Step inside and your eyes are immediately drawn upward to the dome's interior, where bands of calligraphy spiral like celestial orbits across the curved surface. At first glance, these appear as standard Quranic verses but follow their flow, and you'll notice certain letters subtly enlarged, their ink darkened to form a secondary pattern when viewed from the chamber's exact center. Modern scholars using spectral imaging confirmed what Sufi adepts long suspected. These highlighted letters reconstruct an ancient Persian poem about the soul's ascent, interwoven with sacred text like gold thread through tapestry. The dome's architecture holds even deeper mysteries. Its height precisely equals its diameter, a perfect sphere's proportions, while the interior niches number exactly 12, mirroring both the months of the year and the hierarchy of Sufi masters in Ahmad Kabir's order. Stand beneath the central oculus at noon during the equinox, and sunlight strikes a carved marble disc on the floor, igniting a beam that climbs the western wall to illuminate a hidden inscription. Knowledge is light that blinds the unprepared. This isn't mere decoration, it's a spiritual obstacle course designed to test visitors' understanding through embodied experience. Most extraordinary are the shrine's so-called whispering arches. The dome's unique acoustics transform specific spots along its perimeter into natural sound amplifiers, allowing prayers murmured near one pillar to be heard clearly at its opposite counterpart, but only if spoken in the precise tonal ranges used in Decipher ceremonies. Recent audio analyzers revealed these architectural sweet spots align with the harmonic ratios described in Sufi musical treatises as the keys to divine resonance. Beneath layers of plaster, restorers uncovered faded frescoes depicting the celestial spheres as described by 12th century Persian polymath Omar Khayyam, not as separate realms but as interpenetrating layers of reality. The painting's color palette holds its own code, lapis lazuli blues representing the divine essence gradually lightening to earthly greens and ochres, a visual metaphor for spirit descending into matter. Perhaps the shrine's most poignant secret lies in its foundation stones. When archaeologists examined the subterranean chambers, they found bricks stamped with symbols matching those in Rumi's private notebooks, including a distinctive 7-pointed star that only appears in his most esoteric writings about unity beyond form. The message is clear. Harune wasn't just a tomb, but a living conduit between worlds, its every brick placed with sacred intentionality. As dawn light filters through its lattice windows today, painting the calligraphy in ever-shifting patterns, the dome still performs its original function, not merely housing wisdom, but revealing it gradually to those who know how to look beyond the surface. In the quiet gardens of Shiraz, where orange blossoms perfume the air, the tomb of Hafez hums with hidden harmonies. At first glance, this elegant pavilion seems like a straightforward memorial, a simple marble cenotaph beneath an open-sided dome, surrounded by verses from Persia's most beloved poet. But lean closer and you'll notice something peculiar. The calligraphy adorning the tomb isn't just decorative. Each swirl of ink, each deliberate spacing between letters, follows a rhythm that mirrors the poet's own musical meter. Scholars have long suspected the tomb's designers embedded layers of meaning into its very structure, turning stone and script into a three-dimensional ghazal waiting to be sung. Start with the cenotaph's orientation. Unlike traditional Islamic tombs facing Mecca, Hafez's resting place angles slightly northeast, aligning perfectly with the sunrise on Nowruz, the Persian New Year. This isn't coincidence. Hafez's poetry teems with references to dawn and renewal, and the alignment creates a yearly spectacle. As the first rays strike the tomb, shadows from the latticework cascade across the marble-like moving calligraphy, writing fragments of his verses across the floor for exactly 72 minutes, the symbolic age at which the poet died. Then there's the dome's acoustics. Its curvature amplifies specific frequencies when visitors recite Hafez's work aloud. Recent audio studies revealed that lines containing the poet's signature metaphors, nightingale's whine, the beloved's tress, resonate most powerfully, their echoes lingering seconds longer than other phrases. Some Sufi devotees insist this proves the tomb was designed as a resonance chamber for divine truth, physically embodying Hafez's belief that poetry could channel higher wisdom. The real cipher lies in the tomb's mosaic patterns. At first glance, the floral motifs appear random, but mathematical analysis shows they follow the same proportional ratios as the bar-e-tavel, the complex poetic meter Hafez used for his most enigmatic verses. Even more startling, when these patterns are mapped onto musical staves, they produce melodies matching medieval Persian court compositions mentioned in Hafez's diaries. Was the tomb meant to be read not just with eyes but with ears? Most tantalizing are the gaps. Certain panels conspicuously lack inscriptions where one would expect them, their smooth marble contrasting sharply with the surrounding calligraphy. Infrared scans confirmed these aren't omissions, but erasures traces of older, more esoteric verses scraped away during conservative restorations in the 18th century. One surviving fragment mentions a cupbearer who pours light instead of wine, a phrase modern scholars link to banned Sufi teachings about enlightenment. At night, under moonlight, the tomb reveals its final secret. The marble's veining, invisible by day, emerges in faint streaks that, when viewed from the north steps, form the silhouette of a kneeling figure offering a cup. It's the same image described in Hafez's most famous line, "The cupbearer's shadow is the only prayer I need." Whether natural coincidence or masterful stone selection, the effect is undeniable. Here lies a poet who didn't just write about mysteries, he built them into his eternal rest, ensuring that even in death, his words would keep unfolding like rose petals in the dawn. Perched on remote hilltops outside Yazd, the circular stone platforms known as the Towers of Silence rise like open-air temples to an ancient and uncompromising vision of death. These Zoroastrian structures, called dakmas, were designed not to house the dead but to expose them, to surrender corpses to the elements in a ritual as precise as it was profound. At first glance, the towers appear grimly utilitarian, their concentric rings and central pits serving the practical needs of sky burial. But look deeper, and every curve and contour reveals a symbolic language woven from fire, earth, and celestial cycles. The tower's architecture follows a sacred geometry. 3 concentric circles divide the space into zones of escalating purity, the outermost ring for men, the middle for women, the innermost for children. This tripartite structure mirrors the Zoroastrian cosmological hierarchy: earthly existence, the spiritual in-between, and divine transcendence. Even the slight inward slope of the floors isn't merely functional drainage. It echoes the Zoroastrian concept of spiritual flow, where impurity must be directed away from sacred elements. The central well, where bones were eventually deposited after vultures picked the flesh, aligns with the constellation Ursa Major during the spring equinox, a celestial nod to the soul's ascent. Ritual governed every aspect of exposure. Bodies were carried by specific classes of pallbearers along predetermined paths that avoided crossing water sources, as Zoroastrian tradition held that death polluted the sacred elements of earth, fire, and water. The towers themselves were always positioned atop hills or man-made mounds, not just for practical exposure to carrion birds, but to create symbolic proximity to the divine. Modern LiDAR scans reveal many were carefully aligned with nearby fire temples, forming ritual landscapes where towers represented physical decay and temples embodied eternal flame, the 2 poles of Zoroastrian eschatology. Most striking are the towers' acoustic properties. Recent studies show their circular walls create a whispering gallery effect, amplifying chants from the Nazalas death priests while dampening all other sounds, a sonic metaphor for the focus required to navigate death's threshold. The stones themselves bear faint, deliberate scoring along their edges, patterns matching diagrams in medieval Zoroastrian texts that depict the soul's 3-day journey to judgment. Perhaps the most profound symbolism lies in what the towers rejected. By refusing burial or cremation, Zoroastrians encoded a radical ecological theology that human remains shouldn't corrupt earth or fire, but return to the cycle through clean scavengers. The vultures weren't incidental, they were ritual participants, their swift consumption seen as a sign of divine approval. In this light, the towers become not places of abandonment, but sacred recycling plants where matter transformed under heaven's gaze. Today, as conservation efforts document the last surviving towers, their silent stones still whisper a challenge to modern sensibilities, that how we treat the dead speaks volumes about how we honor the living world. The real message of these structures wasn't in their function, but in their fierce poetry, that even decay could be sacred when framed by cosmic order. Clinging to a sheer cliff face in Iran's rugged mountains, Kale Doktor, the maiden fortress stands as a silent sentinel guarding more than just physical territory. Built by the formidable Sasanian king Ardashir I in the 3rd century, this imposing structure's name hints at its deepest mystery. While most Persian fortresses celebrate martial might, this one whispers of a royal woman's legacy, its very stones encoded with symbols that defy straightforward interpretation. Approach its weathered gates and you'll notice carvings unlike any other fortress of its era, delicate lotus blossoms intertwining with swords, fertility symbols etched beside scenes of battle. This juxtaposition of feminine and martial motifs has puzzled historians for generations. Was this a tribute to a beloved princess, a mother's protective charm carved in stone, or something far more strategic? The fortress's layout deepens the enigma. While most Sasanian military architecture follows rigid geometric patterns, Doctor's corridors spiral outward in a series of widening arcs resembling the petals of a flower. Recent laser scans revealed these pathways align with solstice sunrises, their curves directing sunlight to illuminate specific carvings at precise times of year. One such relief, hidden in a shadowed alcove, shows a crowned figure unmistakably royal holding not a scepter, but a spindle and distaff, traditional symbols of womanhood. The sunlight strikes this figure only at midday during the spring equinox, bathing it in golden light for exactly 21 minutes. A sacred number in Zoroastrian tradition associated with the Azota angelic being Ashi, the divine embodiment of fortune and marital happiness. Then there are the fortress's so-called whispering walls. Certain passageways funnel sound with uncanny precision, allowing words spoken near the eastern barracks to be heard clearly in the western tower, but only if the speaker uses the high, melodic tones typical of women's ceremonial chants. Was this acoustic quirk intentional? Some scholars point to legends of a Sasanian princess who supposedly directed battles from within the fortress, her commands transmitted through these stone conduits to appear as if the walls themselves were speaking. Others note that the sound channels align perfectly with niches where fire altars once burned, suggesting the acoustics may have amplified priestesses' invocations during wartime rituals. The most compelling clues lie in the vaulted chamber at the fortress's heart. Here, the ceiling carvings depict a lineage of female figures, each holding a unique emblem, a crescent, an 8-pointed star, a flowering branch. At first glance, this seems like a simple decorative motif, but when compared to Sasanian coinage, the emblems match those of queens and noblewomen whose names were deliberately erased from official histories after political falls from grace. The chamber's orientation adds another layer. Its entrance faces not toward the empire's borders, but inward toward the ancient city of Gur, Ardashir's birthplace. This unusual alignment suggests the space served less as a military command center and more as a symbolic bridge between royal bloodlines, a stone testament to the women who shaped the empire behind the scenes. Beneath layers of soot from centuries of torchlight, restorers recently uncovered faded pigments in the chamber, vibrant blues and golds that once made the carvings shimmer like living tapestries. Even more telling are the chemical signatures in the paint, traces of ground lapis lazuli from Afghanistan and cinnabar from Spain, materials so precious they were typically reserved for depictions of deities. Their presence here implies these images weren't merely memorials but objects of veneration. Could Doctor have been both fortress and sacred archive, a stronghold guarding not just territory, but the legitimacy of a dynasty's matrilineal heritage? The fortress's ultimate riddle may lie in its name. While Maiden Fortress suggests romantic notions of protecting royal daughters, the term Doctor in Old Persian also meant unbreakable or pure qualities associated with Zoroastrian fire temples. Perhaps the name was never about a woman at all, but about encoding the fortress's true purpose, to be both shield and sanctuary, a place where political power and spiritual authority fused into something unassailable. As drone surveys now map previously inaccessible upper terraces, revealing hidden chambers arranged in patterns mirroring the constellation Virgo, we're left to wonder whether the stones have been whispering their secrets all along, waiting for us to learn how to listen. Shah Cherogh Shrine in Shur, as isn't just a mausoleum, it's a cosmic kaleidoscope, its every surface sheathed in countless shards of mirrored glass that fracture light into infinity. Step inside, and the effect is nothing short of transcendent. sunlight ricochets off angled mirrors, scattering prismatic patterns across vaulted ceilings, transforming the entire space into a living metaphor for divine illumination. But this dazzling spectacle isn't mere decoration. Scholars of Islamic mysticism argue the mirrorwork encodes a profound theological statement that the divine isn't just reflected in creation, but fractured and multiplied, accessible through infinite facets of perception. The shrine's central dome reveals the first clue. Its mirrored tiles aren't arranged randomly, but in concentric circles that mimic the orbits of celestial bodies described in medieval Persian astronomy texts. During midday, sunlight strikes a central oculus, sending a beam bouncing between precisely angled mirrors to illuminate, in sequence, 12 calligraphic panels, each containing a different name of God from Islamic tradition. This choreography of light occurs year-round, but on the summer solstice, an added phenomenon occurs. The beams converge on the tomb of Ahmad ibn Musa, the shrine's revered descendant of the Prophet, bathing it in a concentrated pool of radiance for exactly 33 minutes, a number sacred in Sufi numerology as the count of vertebrae in the human spine, symbolizing the physical path. Spiritual ascent. Then there's the whispering gallery effect. The shrine's mirrored arches amplify sound in unpredictable ways, allowing prayers murmured near the entrance to resound with startling clarity at the tomb's far side, but only if spoken in classical Arabic, not Persian. Some acousticians suggest the mirror's angles were deliberately calibrated to favor the sacred language of the Quran, creating an aural filter that literally elevates divine language above vernacular speech. Most enigmatic are the hidden patterns. From certain vantage points, the mirror's reflections resolve into geometric shapes, interlocking stars, flower of life motifs that match sacred diagrams in Sufi meditation manuals. Infrared photography recently revealed these patterns aren't accidental. Beneath the surface, tiny grooves were etched into the plaster to guide the mirror's placement. Even more startling, some mirrors contain microscopic inscriptions, Quranic verses in silver script, visible only when light strikes at 5-degree angles. The shrine's ultimate secret may lie in what it withholds. Unlike most Islamic monuments that flood interiors with light, Shah Cherog's mirrored surfaces paradoxically absorb illumination, creating a paradoxical twilight where pinpoint flares dance against darkness. This, say mystics, is the shrine's true lesson. That divinity isn't found in overwhelming radiance, but in the interplay of shadow and spark, the moments when fractured light hints at a wholeness too vast for mortal eyes to behold. Standing silent and austere on the windswept plains of Iran's Qazvin province, the Karakan towers rise like twin sentinels guarding a millennium of secrets. Built just 17 years apart in the 11th century, these octagonal brick structures might seem identical at a glance, but look closer and their subtle differences begin to whisper of deliberate design choices that go far beyond mere aesthetics. The older tower, completed in 1068, bears intricate brickwork patterns that spiral upward in a clockwise direction, while its younger counterpart from 1085 twists counterclockwise, creating a mesmerizing visual tension when viewed together. This mirroring isn't just artistic flair. Some researchers argue it encodes advanced mathematical principles, with the alternating spirals forming a three-dimensional representation of the Fibonacci sequence, a mathematical pattern found in nature's growth structures, yet one that wouldn't be formally described in the West for another 200 years. The tower's geometric ornamentation reveals even deeper layers of intentionality. Each facade features 5 distinct bands of brickwork, their repeating motifs becoming progressively more complex as they ascend. The lower bands display straightforward zigzag patterns, while the upper sections unfold into dizzying star and polygon combinations that align precisely with Islamic geometric theorems developed by Persian scholars like Omar Khayyam. What's astonishing is how these patterns interact with sunlight. During the equinoxes, the angles of the brick projections cast shadows that connect across the tower's faces, forming temporary lines that mirror the constellation Boötes, a celestial marker associated with wisdom in medieval Persian astronomy. Then there's the matter of the tower's acoustics. Their hollow cylindrical cores act as natural resonance chambers, amplifying specific frequencies when wind passes through their ventilation shafts. Musicologists have noted that these singing towers produce tones matching the intervals of the ancient Persian modal system known as the dastgah. Even more intriguing, the spacing between the towers creates an auditory illusion. When standing exactly midway between them on the winter solstice, a clap or chant echoes back as a perfect fifth harmonic, an interval sacred to both Zoroastrian and Islamic mystical traditions. The real enigma lies in their celestial alignments. While most contemporary tombs face Mecca, the Karakan towers orient along an axis that bisects the summer solstice sunrise and winter solstice sunset. Recent drone surveys revealed this alignment isn't approximate, but precise to within 0.3 degrees, a level of accuracy suggesting the builders possessed sophisticated astronomical knowledge. The tower's 8 sides compound this precision. Viewed from above, their vertices trace an 8-pointed star that, when superimposed on medieval Persian star charts, aligns with key stars in the Ursa Major and Cassiopeia constellations. Some scholars believe this was a symbolic representation of the 8 heavens described in Islamic cosmology, while others argue it functioned as a practical astronomical calendar, tracking lunar cycles through the interplay of shadows across its facades. Most tantalizing are the barely perceptible indentations found along certain brick courses, shallow depressions that appear random until mapped spatially. When connected, these dots form what looks suspiciously like a diagram from a recovered 11th century Persian manuscript detailing the elliptical orbits of planets. The probability of this being coincidental is vanishingly small, raising profound questions about how builders of the Seljuk era might have understood celestial mechanics centuries before Kepler's laws of planetary motion. What emerges from these twin structures is a dialogue in brick and shadow, where every spiral and angle serves multiple purposes: aesthetic, scientific, spiritual. The towers don't just challenge our assumptions about medieval Persian architecture, they redefine what we thought possible of the era's scientific ambition. In their silent symmetry, they guard not just the remains of long-forgotten emirs, but evidence of a civilization that saw no boundary between art and astronomy, between the earthly and the celestial. The real mystery isn't whether these towers hold codes, it's why we're only now learning to read them. Beneath the dappled shade of bitter orange trees in Shiraz's Naranjistan garden, every petal, every reflecting pool, every archway hums with layered meaning. This isn't just a place of beauty, it's a living allegory where the very air carries the citrus-scented whispers of Persia's dual reverence for nature and sovereignty. The garden's namesake naranj trees, with their glossy leaves and golden fruit, were never merely decorative. In Zoroastrian tradition, citrus symbolized the divine spark of creation, their evergreen leaves representing eternal life, their fragrant blossoms embodying purity, and their tart fruit serving as a metaphor for the bittersweet responsibilities of rulership. Walk the central pathway flanked by these trees, and you'll notice their careful spacing follows the precise ratio described in medieval Persian agricultural manuals as the royal interval, the ideal distance to allow each tree's roots to thrive without competition. This wasn't just horticultural best practice, it was a political statement. The Qajar dynasty, who commissioned the garden, used this botanical harmony to mirror their vision of governance, a kingdom where subjects, like trees, were given room to flourish under the canopy of royal protection. Even the tree's placement encodes meaning. Positioned in perfect quincunx patterns, 4 trees forming a square with one at the center, they replicate the ancient Persian cosmological model of the cosmos, with the central tree representing Mount Meru, the axis mundi connecting earth to heaven. The garden's water features deepen the symbolism, Unlike European fountains that jet water skyward in displays of dominance over nature, Naranjastan's channels and pools work with gravity in quiet elegance. Narrow stone aqueducts trace intricate arabesque patterns before spilling into rectangular basins, a design that mirrors the Persian poetic form of the ghazal, where controlled structure gives way to emotional release. Scholars examining 19th-century court documents found explicit references to these water features as metaphors for royal generosity. Just as water nourishes roots without discrimination, so too should a just ruler's beneficence flow equally to all subjects. Most striking is the interplay between water and citrus. During Nowruz, the Persian New Year, gardeners would float naranj blossoms in the central pool, so their reflections danced alongside real flowers, a visual representation of the Zoroastrian teaching that earthly beauty is but a shadow of divine perfection. This practice wasn't just poetic, it served as a subtle reminder to visiting dignitaries that their power, like the floating blossoms, was ephemeral without the deeper roots of wisdom. The pavilion at the garden's heart takes the citrus motif even further. Its stained glass windows cast sunlight in dappled citrus-hued patterns across interior murals depicting legendary rulers, each scene framed by fruiting branches that seem to grow from the monarch's very crowns. One remarkable panel shows a king receiving not a scepter, but a naranj branch from a winged figure, echoing the ancient coronation ritual where Sasanian rulers held citrus fruits to symbolize their role as cultivators of civilization. Recent spectrographic analysis revealed the garden's original color scheme extended the citrus symbolism further. The pavilion's exterior was once painted in gradients from saffron yellow to deep emerald, not just mimicking fruit transitioning from unripe to ripe, but mirroring the stages of spiritual enlightenment in Sufi mysticism. Even the garden's walls participated in the allegory. Their lofty height ensured the citrus tree's fragrance would concentrate within the grounds, creating an olfactory reminder that nobility's blessings shouldn't dissipate beyond their proper boundaries. What emerges is a masterclass in Persian symbolic thinking where botany, hydrology, and architecture conspire to teach enduring lessons about power's fleeting nature and the cyclical rhythms of life. To walk through Naranjistan isn't just to experience a garden, it's to traverse the pages of a living manuscript, one where every rustling leaf still recites verses about the delicate balance between earthly rule and cosmic order. Rising from the plains of Firuzabad like a half-solved riddle, the ruins of Ardashir's palace whisper secrets about an empire's ambition carved in stone. At first glance, these crumbling walls and fire-scorched columns seem like just another Sasanian royal residence, but walk its perimeter, and you'll notice something extraordinary. The entire complex is laid out in a perfect circle, its concentric rings of chambers and courtyards radiating outward like ripples from a dropped pebble. This wasn't casual design. Recent laser surveys reveal the palace's geometry encodes the Zoroastrian concept of Khvarina, the divine royal glory believed to emanate from righteous kings. Each ring's width corresponds to sacred ratios described in Avestan texts, expanding at intervals that mirror the mathematical progression of light from a flame. The throne room's remains tell an even more compelling story. Its elevated platform aligns precisely with the sunrise on the spring equinox, but there's a twist: the angle of its remaining pillars would have cast shadows that bisected the hall diagonally at noon, creating a temporary meridian line. Persian chronicles mention how Ardashir used sunlight rituals to demonstrate his connection to the divine, and this architectural feature suggests the palace itself functioned as a colossal sundial, its moving shadows marking not just hours but the king's symbolic journey through the celestial realms. Then there are the fire chambers. Unlike typical Zoroastrian fire temples with centralized altars, Firuzabad's palace contains multiple fire niches arranged in a seven-pointed star formation. Infrared scans of the soot patterns show these weren't random placements. Each niche burned different aromatic woods corresponding to the seven Amsha Spenta, the Zoroastrian divine emanations. When reconstructed in 3D models, the smoke from these fires would have swirled upward in interlocking spirals, visually recreating the Fravahar symbol of the soul's ascent. Most strikingly, the palace's drainage system follows an intricate fractal pattern. What appears at first as simple gutters actually replicates the branching networks of ancient Persian qanats, underground water channels that sustained desert cities. This wasn't just practical engineering. Inscriptions found on clay tablets nearby describe how Sasanian rulers saw themselves as irrigators of civilization, and the palace's water flow literally embodied this metaphor, with channels widening as they moved outward to nourish successive courtyards like fields radiating from a wellspring. The real cipher lies in the palace's missing center. Excavations confirm a circular platform once stood at the geometric heart of the complex, but unlike typical daïses for thrones or altars, this space shows no signs of burning or wear. Instead, it's bordered by 12 shallow depressions that, when filled with water, reflect the surrounding colonnades to create the illusion of infinite regress. Scholars believe this was the physical manifestation of a key Sasanian doctrine that the true king wasn't merely a ruler, but the empty center around which order revolved. His authority derived from the harmony he maintained rather than the objects he possessed. Firuzabad's stones challenge everything we assume about royal architecture. This wasn't just a place of governance, it was a three-dimensional manifesto, every corridor and courtyard arguing silently for a vision of kingship as intricate as the palace's own geometric perfection. As drone surveys now reveal previously unnoticed indentations in the walls, shallow grooves that may have once held metal plates tuned to specific musical intervals, we're left to wonder if the palace didn't just encode imperial ideology, but performed it, turning stone and sunlight into a symphony of power meant to resonate through the ages. Scattered across the Iranian countryside like ancient beehives, the domed towers of Cryptograms hold secrets far beyond their simple exterior. These unassuming pigeon houses, some dating back over 400 years, aren't just relics of rural life. They're sophisticated communication hubs, agricultural computers, and even political symbols disguised as humble bird roosts. Step inside one of these circular towers, and you're immediately struck by the intricate honeycomb of nesting niches lining every inch of the interior walls, thousands of small alcoves that could house tens of thousands of pigeons. But this architectural precision isn't just about maximizing real estate for birds. The arrangement of these niches follows strict mathematical patterns, with their spacing and depth varying according to their compass orientation. Those facing north are noticeably shallower, protecting eggs from cold winds, while southern exposures feature deeper chambers to shield squabs from the relentless sun. This wasn't random adaptation, it was agricultural engineering on a grand scale. The tower's true genius lies beneath your feet. Excavations reveal elaborate underground chambers connected to the roosts by narrow channels, designed to funnel nutrient-rich pigeon droppings into collection pits. Historical records suggest the fertilizer harvested here was so valuable, it served as a form of currency in some regions, with specific tower designs indicating the quality and quantity stored within. Some scholars argue the towers functioned as primitive agricultural banks, their distinctive shapes and decorative brickwork encoding information about the fertility of surrounding fields, like a stone ledger tracking soil health across generations. Then there's the matter of communication. Unlike European dovecotes that primarily raised birds for food, Persian pigeons were messengers first, their homing instincts harnessed for an elaborate postal network. The tower's elevated positions created natural relay stations, with birds shuttling messages between key locations. But recent discoveries suggest something even more remarkable. The towers themselves may have been visual signals. Certain Cryptograms feature alternating bands of light and dark brick that, when viewed from a distance, form distinct patterns visible for miles. These could have served as territorial markers, grain reserve indicators, or even early warning systems, their patterns changing to signal approaching caravans or impending raids. Most fascinating are the acoustic properties hidden in their design. The tower's circular shape and domed ceilings create unusual sound dynamics. A whisper uttered near the base travels upward with eerie clarity, allowing caretakers to monitor nesting activity without disturbing the birds. Some towers even incorporate clay pots into their walls, positioned to amplify specific frequencies. Farmers may have used these to train pigeons, associating certain sounds with feeding times or danger. Perhaps the deepest mystery lies in the tower's symbolic role. Persian miniatures often depict royal figures receiving pigeons as tribute, and the tower's architectural flourishes, like their resemblance to royal crowns, hint at a deeper political meaning. Were these structures a subtle assertion of state control over communication and agriculture? Or perhaps a democratizing force, bringing valuable knowledge and resources within reach of common farmers? As drone surveys now map previously undocumented towers across remote regions, patterns emerge: alignments with ancient trade routes, clusters near long-vanished postal stations, even mathematical relationships between tower capacities and the size of nearby Qanat water systems. Each discovery peels back another layer, revealing a forgotten language of bricks and birds, where every niche and curve held meaning for those who knew how to read it. The pigeons may be gone, but their towers still whisper of an era when even the most practical structures spoke in code. Dotting the ancient trade routes like stone way stations in a vast desert, the caravanserais of Persia were far more than just places to rest weary camels. They were coded hubs of commerce and communication, their very architecture whispering secrets to those who knew how to listen. Step inside one of these sprawling courtyard complexes, and you're immediately struck by their standardized design. Towering gates leading to a central courtyard, surrounded by arched alcoves for merchants and livestock. But look closer, and subtle variations emerge: patterns in the brickwork, deliberate asymmetries in the layout, even the placement of water channels, that scholars now believe formed a sophisticated signaling system for Silk Road travelers. Take the caravanserai of Zain-od-Din near Yazd. Its circular watchtower isn't centered, but offset precisely 7 degrees from true north. This odd alignment matches the angle of Polaris at the latitude of Constantinople, a possible beacon for Byzantine merchants. The stables here feature an unusual double-tiered design, with the lower levels troughs carved with shallow grooves that, when filled with water, reflect starlight onto specific ceiling carvings. Some researchers argue these formed primitive stellar calendars, helping traders calculate optimal departure dates based on celestial cycles. Then there's the matter of the caravanserai's strategic spacing. While most assume they were built a day's journey apart, about 30 kilometers, detailed mapping reveals deliberate clusters and gaps along certain routes. Near Rayan, 3 caravanserais stand unusually close, just 15 kilometers apart, forming a triangle around what was once a major lapis lazuli mining area. Their shared architectural feature: all have gateways adorned with deep blue tiles in patterns resembling the veins of high-quality lapis. This wasn't just decoration, it was a visual cipher telling mineral traders they'd reached the source region. The real genius lies in the caravanserai's water systems. At the Qasr-e-Bahram caravanserai along the Khorasan Road, the central cistern's overflow channels form intricate geometric patterns visible only when viewed from the rooftop. These designs match the watermark signatures on commercial contracts found in Geniza documents, suggesting the architecture itself functioned as an anti-fraud device. Merchants could confirm a trading partner's authenticity by checking if their paperwork matched the water patterns at specific way stations. Perhaps most astonishing are the acoustic codes. Many caravanserais incorporate singing walls, especially designed hollow spaces in their facades that produce distinct tones when struck. The Mabod caravanserai's eastern wall, for instance, emits a perfect fifth harmony when tapped at certain points, a musical interval known to signal safe passage in Zoroastrian caravan traditions. Other walls were engineered to amplify whispers between specific alcoves while muffling others, perfect for discreet negotiations. The caravanserai's ultimate message wasn't written in ink or stone, but woven into the fabric of daily commerce. From the alignment of prayer niches indicating trusted moneylenders to the number of steps in a staircase encoding local toll rates, every architectural choice served as silent partner to the merchants who relied on them. These weren't just shelters from the desert storm. They were the original blockchain, decentralized, encrypted nodes in a vast network of trust where the buildings themselves kept the ledgers. From towering fire temples to whispering caravanserais, these 30 monuments reveal a singular truth: Persian architecture never settled for mere function. Each structure we've explored is a palimpsest, its surface beauty concealing layers of meaning meant only for those with the patience to look deeper. Whether it's the celestial alignments of Chogha Zanbil's ziggurat, the political double-speak carved into Byzantine's cliffs, or the Sufi light rituals encoded in Shiraz's mirrored shrines, these sites share a common language of hidden intent. They whisper of rulers who understood power as performance, of scientists who embedded astronomical data in brickwork centuries before the Renaissance, and of artists who turned entire buildings into metaphysical puzzles waiting to be solved. This tradition of architectural secrecy speaks volumes about Persian civilization's unique genius. In an era when most cultures broadcast their messages loudly through conquest or colossal statues, Persian builders perfected the art of subtlety. Their monuments don't just dominate landscapes, they converse with them, using water, shadow, and celestial events as collaborative elements in an ongoing dialogue. The Anahita temple's hydraulic hymns, Gonbad-e Kabas's musical geometry, even the Kabuta Kone's avian semaphore, all reveal a culture that saw the physical world as just one layer of a far richer reality. What's most remarkable isn't the complexity of these hidden messages, but their enduring legibility. Unlike coded texts that require decryption keys, Persian architectural secrets often reveal themselves through patience and observation. Stand in Pasargadae at dawn during the equinox, and Cyrus's stellar alignment becomes visible. Whisper in Ali Kapu's music room, and its acoustic secrets awaken. This intentional accessibility suggests these weren't truly meant to be secrets, but lessons waiting for the worthy. For those who have felt the pull of these mysteries, the journey doesn't end here. Many of these sites still guard unsolved riddles: the meaning behind Kale Doctor's feminine carvings, the full significance of Rayan Citadel's shadow signals, the untranslated symbols in Arg-e-Bam's tunnels. Perhaps you'll be the one to notice what scholars have missed, spotting a pattern in the play of light at Naqsh-e Jahan Square, or recognizing a forgotten constellation in Sultaniye's calligraphy. History's most fascinating conversations often happen in whispers, and Persia's monuments have been murmuring for centuries, waiting for the right listeners. If this exploration has ignited your curiosity, don't let the conversation stop here. Book that trip to Isfahan, dust off those archaeology papers, or dive into the comment section to debate whether Darius's inscriptions were divine claims or early propaganda. The most thrilling aspect of these hidden messages, they remind us that wonder isn't reserved for ancient times, it's waiting in plain sight, etched in stone and sunlight, for anyone willing to engage with the world not just as it appears, but as it was meant to be understood. After all, the greatest monuments aren't those that impose their meaning upon us, but those that invite us to discover it for ourselves.